One of the hugest things is the reduction in churn. Right? When you bring in a team like this and they, go through all these exercises that are designed to fail, that's how you're going to learn how everybody works and how they respond when in crisis mode, right? They become a family is the best way to put it. Like if you have a bunch of individual contractors in there and someone comes and offers them $2 more an hour to go somewhere else, why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? So how do you kind of build that relationship and really become a tight knit group? And then it's like, man, it's not worth it to leave here. It's designed in a certain way. It's very effective. And the customers, they're seeing less churn, higher output, just happier humans.
Welcome to the Control Alt GAB podcast, where we sit down with tech founders to break down how they scale, pivot, and grow. I'm your host, Gabrielle Walthers. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Control Alt GAB podcast. We are joined today by Kyle Johnson, who is the CEO of Holonic. We're very happy to have him. Kyle and I have had several conversations prior to this recording. It's been a long time coming, and we are very grateful to have him on. Hi, Kyle. How are you? Oh, my
I'm
goodness.
kidding. It's working fine. But
Are
last
you
time we
lying?
tried to do this. Yeah.
Did you that's actually... That's
No,
so rude, but I respect the hell out of you. That's incredible.
I had to.
For folks at home, we had to reschedule this podcast because Kyle's mic refused to cooperate. I'm getting trolled in the first minute of the podcast, which is always
That
fun.
is correct.
Thank you so much. I was about to crash out. I was about to be like, we can't, not again. Amazing. Well, with that out of the way, I'm very curious to hear what Holonic's origin story looks like for you. I know you came into the company as it existed prior to you, and now you're in the CEO role. You bought out your partners. Prior to that, walk us through what led you to Holonic, and then what propelled you into the C-suite leadership space. Talk us through those early days. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I guess it makes most sense to go back to the original two founders. One of them I know really well. He's a good friend of mine. He's an engineering leader at a startup. He was their first engineering hire. They've since done like their D round. I think they raised like 120 million. So very successful. But this was way back in the early days. And what he was struggling with was his engineering team as they were scaling. They were just bringing in random contractors from multiple sources, trying to fit this whole thing together and having it grow like crazy. And they were just throwing more money at the problem. And it wasn't working. So he took a step back and found a partner who was also an engineering leader who had struggled with the same thing. And they were like, okay, how do we fix this? Can you fix this? And if so, how would we go about that? And so that's when they came up with what we call pods, right? The pod concept, or product-oriented development teams, and basically bringing in specific coaches who had different specializations, right? One of them's a Scrum Master. So he's leading these pods through like, how should you actually have your daily stand-ups, and what does a week worth of work or a 2-week sprint look like? And let's get everybody on the same page. We're not having one guy does 1 week sprints, one guy likes 2-week sprints, and we're all just miscommunicating and things are getting dropped. So that was one part of it. The other part, they brought in a doctorate of psychology, and she's actually one of my partners now, Ainara, and she put together a multitude of trainings called group dynamics labs. That's really probably the most unique thing about what we do with these groups, is because most engineers, they would come in and they had never really been coached up on like effective communication, giving and receiving feedback. These are things that people just kind of assume you know how to do. You've been a professional for 6 years. You should know how to talk to people. And a lot of times they really don't, especially in that contracting situation where you're coming in, you're not actually an employee. So one of the things we coach them on is, how do you give negative feedback to your manager, right? That you're not even an employee of the company. So we don't want you to feel like you can't do that, because that's not really a healthy relationship. You should be giving feedback, positive, negative, or constructive, let's call it. Because if you see something that is wrong, or you think it's wrong, a good manager is going to want to hear about that and then talk you through why it's either right or maybe it is wrong and we need to make some changes. And a lot of time contractors just don't feel comfortable doing that. There's a ton more that goes into it, but that's kind of the core basis of it. Brought in some product folks for, talk about what we call product thinking. And that's like, okay, when you are coding, why are you doing this, right? How is it affecting the end user? How is it affecting either the client that you're working for or the client's customer? Like, you need to know their story and why they're building this. Otherwise, you can be doing something, working on some feature that no one's ever going to use, or it's not going to have the intended outcome, right? So just really taking a holistic view of these humans, like happier humans are better developers are going to ship better product, and then our clients are going to be happier and it works better as a whole. So I spoke for like 3 minutes straight, and I could just keep going and going and going for the next 30. So we'll pause there.
It was probably closer to 4 minutes, but I'll let you have it. No, that's very interesting. I think contractor gap, I'll call it, is almost so standard that it's not even really talked about. I know that you focus on the developer space specifically, but there's contractors in really any industry. Beyond your current use case, have you conceptualized the applicability of this for other types of contractors out there? There's agency folks, there's creative type contractors, but then there's that whole other blue collar world of contractors that I think that issue is very exacerbated. And so I'm curious what the thinking was when you niche down even to developers specifically, if it was a conversation of all the other potential use cases in the
I mean, a
contract.
lot of it just had to do with engineering leaders struggling
Mhm.
with this. And so, like, how do we fix that in engineering? Okay, let's bring in something that typically they're not being exposed to. But how would you apply that to others? Is this training has all been designed, right? And it's easy to deliver over, depending on how much time you have. It can take a couple weeks or it can take a couple months. But I think the best way to apply it to other practices or niches would be to have our coaches come in. And that's something that we offer. Sometimes people don't need any developers, but their existing team is struggling in a lot of these areas. So we just bring a coach in, and that's like the most cost effective way to deal with this. Bring somebody in on an hourly rate. They're going to run, again, depending on availability, at least probably like a month's worth of time, a couple meetings a week, and really just tune up and focus on these different modules. That's the best way. And you could apply that to anybody, right? It could be a product team. It could be middle management teams. That would probably be a really effective way, because then they could distill that down into whoever it is that they're working with. There's definitely ways to apply it to other industries. And right now we're cooking up an actual product that we think will help do that. But it's very early stage and hush hush for the moment.
For sure. With regards to the team dynamic piece, because that is something that really separates you from other, I'll say almost competitors, because I don't think they quite have the totality of what Holonic has. But can you speak to the impact that you've seen that has become a result of including that team dynamic piece where a lot of other folks don't?
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear how that changes your outcomes and what you've seen and the feedback that you've gotten from your customers so far. That's the biggest difference between you and other folks in a similar space.
Yeah, I think probably one of the hugest things that people would really be interested in hearing and focused on is the reduction in churn. Right? When you bring in a team like this and you train them all together and they go through this, we put them for a 4-week program. And this is where all that training is taking place before they ever land with the client. And once they, go through all these exercises that are basically designed to fail, super high stress, like that's how you're going to learn how everybody works and how they respond when thing is in crisis mode. And it's very Ender's Game-esque, if you're familiar with that work. But yeah, they become a family is the best way to put it. Like they really become a tight knit team. Then it doesn't come, if you have just a bunch of individual contractors in there and someone comes and offers them $2 more an hour to go somewhere else, it's like, well, why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? And that happens when it's just individual staffing and these kids, they're getting offers all the time and recruiters reaching out all the time. So how do you kind of build that relationship? And then they really become a tight knit group. And then it's like, man, it's not worth it to leave here because we work so well with one another. And I really know these people. They get to know each other on a deeper interpersonal level because it's designed in a certain way. It's very effective. And I would say that's the customers seeing that, right? They're seeing less churn, higher output, just happier humans. Again, is like these people are going to be better functioning members of their society, members of their team, members of the organization. They can transition over to full-time employees whenever they want. If the company chooses, we're totally cool with that. We're not just like, oh, you have to contract forever. We get it. Nobody wants to contract forever. Very few people. They're looking for an opportunity to grow. And that's the second side of it, where we really have the positive feedback is the developers that have gone through this whole system. They come back to us and they're like, this changed my life. It changed how I work. And so I'm going to take these lessons with me anywhere I go. It was this invaluable training that I've never been exposed to. Like no one has ever brought any of this up throughout my entire career. And now that I know all this, I'm going to be so much better. And a lot of it has to do with work-life balance. We're not just completely focused on, like a lot of staffing firms are just asses in seats is how I refer to it. And that's all they want. They want asses in seats and that's it. And they don't really care. Work as many hours as you can, as much as you can so we can bill for it. And if you get tired out, we'll find somebody else that can fill your spot.
Another added positive effect of the pod structure is that if you're just an individual working in a contracting role and the culture is work till your fingers are bones and all that stuff, you're not going to feel empowered to go against that at all. You're going to be like, well, all of my other peers are doing this. This is how it goes. But if you have a team of you, you can collectively decide if that's what's best or not. You know what I mean? You have a bit more agency, which is important, especially if you're working for a larger organization or there's a lot of levels between you and who calls the shots.
Yeah.
That's
One of the
interesting.
group dynamics labs that we focus on is called stress and burnout. It's how to deal with stress, how to avoid burnout. And here are some things you can do, right? And here's the self work that you can be doing, not have it be so prevalent. And they all blend together and they're all used in a way, but giving and receiving feedback will tie into that because now you feel comfortable. Okay, here's where I'm at. This is why I'm so stressed. This is why I'm feeling burnout. Now you know how to give and receive feedback to your seniors. Maybe you go to them and be like, look, there is no way we can do this amount of work in this amount of time. We need another back end resource. We need another front end, whatever it is. We try to enable them to not only, you don't want them to just go in there and just put their head down and just do what they're told. That's not really the idea. We really want
Yeah.
them to be a contributing piece of the engineering organization that eventually is going to become a permanent part of the org. Assuming they
Hmm.
do well and the companies are doing well, it just makes sense that eventually it's not ideal for us that eventually we're going to be displaced, but that's just the natural path. And that's part of
Hmm.
what we're selling on the developer side because there's so many places they can go and do remote contracting work. But we have a natural path. We're totally okay with it. We get it. We give you the opportunity to work for an early stage startup that's US based. And then we don't mind if at some point they transition you over.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense, the fusion of almost like professional development and staffing, like a one window approach to getting qualified people on your team easily. I think it both improves a lot of the metrics with regards to turnout and people moving on or taking multiple different contracting jobs in a short amount of time. But has that led to extended sales cycles for you? Has that led to other kind of scaling challenges that you've kind of had to adapt to based on just the nature of your offering?
Yes. So it's difficult to explain, first off, right? So you really
Hmm.
have to like get on a call with someone and walk them through the different, group dynamics labs, what they are, why they're important. A lot of times you have to work with someone. It has to be someone who's already really experienced this pain, and they're familiar with it. And they're like, oh, okay, I understand why you would do all this and how that would help. And man, I don't want to deal with that anymore. But yeah, a lot of times people are like, I need somebody yesterday. And that doesn't really lend itself to going out. First, we got to find the talent because it's specific to each client. We don't just have a bench of people and it's like next best up. It's what is exactly the person that you need. And let's go out and find them, or what's the exact team you need. And then wait. We got to train them for 3 to 4 weeks. And we can
Hmm.
do a lot of that in the hybrid role. But the sooner they get into the company and they're actually becoming part of that organization, the less time they have for us to really take of theirs, right? It's like full time right away. So it's a little bit harder to do that way, but we do offer like a hybrid model. And obviously we'll place individuals in certain cases because they're like, hey, this all sounds great, but I can't take a full team right now. I only need one person. They get a smaller subset of the training, but a lot of the group cohesion stuff is not available because there's no group.
Hmm. Yeah. So for folks that come to you being like, hey, we need this amount of people immediately,
Yeah.
is your approach to be like, yes, but it's not going to be immediate. And these are the reasons
Yeah.
why.
Or yes, but if you don't do everything, if they're not going to go through all this training that we do, you can't expect the exact same outcome, right?
Results. Yeah.
It might
Hmm.
not be as good because you're saying, I want to circumvent that. I want to skip that. And that's the magic. So if you skip the magic, you still might get really good people and a really good team, but you might not. And it's also like, okay, you're in such a hurry for this hire, but what if you screw it up, right? That's going to cost you 6 months. So why not do it right the first time? Yes, it might take an extra month if we're going to do all this training, but it's going to be right and it's going to be done and you can depend on the outcome. Whereas
Hmm.
it's like, oh, I'm working with 5 different recruitment people that are all sending me resumes and emails, or I'm logging into their system. And that just sounds chaotic and like a disaster waiting to happen. It's just like, who can get me the best resume first? So that's not an ideal situation for Holonic and for us.
Hmm.
And we do turn people away sometimes because it's like, look, your company is broken.
Hmm.
It's so broken that I don't think we can fix it. And if we
Yeah. I
land
don't think our offering is going to be the
yeah,
magic
yeah,
beans.
because like if leadership's not on board and they don't care and it's a sweatshop mentality, then it's not going to work. We're going to do all
Yeah.
this training and get everybody ready and we're going to land them in there and the whole thing's going to blow up in 3 months and we're just going to be like, well, that was a waste of a lot of time and effort and just headaches and heartaches.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question is, do you find yourself disqualifying leads for yourself
Yeah.
often, if at all?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not often, but there's been times, and it's only because we've engaged with people and then gone through that pain that now we know,
Mhm.
okay, here was the yellow flags and there was the red flag, and we ignored them all because we wanted the revenue, but it totally wasn't worth it, and it ended up costing us time and money and just all kinds of
Yeah.
issues.
It is a tough piece to try to communicate back to prospective leads why they have not set themselves up for success. We say that on our end too. If there's folks approaching us really wanting to partner with us or use our services, but they internally are so ill prepared to actually scale in the way they want to, anything that we do is ultimately going to be futile.
Yeah. And then they'll blame you for it not working. Yeah.
Yeah, educating them back about their own organizational weaknesses is a tough thing to do, and it's like a delicate dance.
And if people are open to it and they're receptive, that's a great sign and will
Yeah.
work with you, because it's the people that want to join in on the trainings. And that's what we really want. Whoever's going to be managing this team should be a part of a lot of the training, right?
Mhm.
Because they learn, okay, what are they learning? Why are they learning it? Oh, here's the reason behind, here's the different phrases that they're using. And they
Mhm.
can take that back and it can land and expand, right? Because it's
Mhm.
healthy and it's good for your engineering organization. And it's going to have a positive overall outcome if, this pod comes in as this little unit, but then the ways that they work and communicate and all that is going to branch out into the rest of your organization. And that's the goal. And the coaches are not just like, hey, we coached up this pod and we land it and we drop it off. It goes on for the entire engagement, right? So if we're working with these people for 2 years, it's not as hot and heavy as it is in the beginning. But like once they first land with the client, it's weekly check-ins at minimum
Mhm.
with all the different coaches. Usually we'll try to do it on one call, but just check all these things. How's this going? How's the communication working out? Are there any yellow flags? What do we need to get on? And then it goes to bi-weekly. And then once they're like set, usually after about 3 months, they're like, okay, this is really going well. Then we'll kick it back to monthly check-ins. And then
Mhm.
but they know that we're always here. We kind of are like this layer of HR. And that's part of what the clients are paying for, is having us there. And I mean, it's like sometimes people have personal stuff come up and they'll reach out to the coaches about that. And it's great for us to know if someone has a family member that passed away or they're moving, like some huge stressor in their life, bring that to us so we can help you through it and also let the client know what's going on. So if there is a little bit of a dip for a couple of weeks or something like that, it's not just, well, what's going on? He's not doing his job. It's like there's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
we
He's
know
actually a
about
whole
that.
person. So yeah,
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
other
exactly.
things at play
Like,
here. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
again, like usually the people that do end up engaging with us are all about it. And so they get it. And so it's easy to have these conversations.
Yeah. On the other side of the coin, there's immense value in two streams I'm seeing: professional development alone, irregardless of the staffing and placement piece, and then the recruiting, placement, staffing side. And so we've spoken to how that lengthens the sales cycle, the education piece that goes along with that, leading to things you have to adjust to. But on the other side, have you seen any surprising positive outcomes of that in with regards to scaling? Like, has it propelled your growth in ways that you maybe didn't expect, or have you gotten good traction in areas that you didn't expect with your unique positioning?
It's more like if it comes in, we bring in a team and it works really well, they're going to come back. If
Mm.
that company is going to scale, then it's like, okay, I need another pod or I need 2 pods, right? And we can train multiple at the same time. That's the ideal scenario. And that's really what it was designed for, right? Initially, when it was in an incubator, it was a extremely fast growing startup. And instead of bringing on, one person at a time, they'd be like, okay, we're going to need another team. So go take your month, train them, get them ready, and then boom, we deploy, right? And then they took that approach to scaling engineering versus like, we're just going to go out and find people anywhere we can and just hope this whole thing mashes together. And that can
Mhm.
work if you have really good leadership and good engineers. It's not like it's impossible, but I think people get used to it not working that well, like you mentioned
Mhm.
earlier. And it's just
Yeah.
kind of norm. So how do we get this messaging out into the world? Part of why I'm here today is just make some noise. And maybe if someone watched this full thing, they go, oh, okay, that actually does make sense. You try to send it in an email and it just doesn't
Mhm.
seem to really like break through. It's just too much
Yeah.
information.
I also think the nature of what you're trying to communicate is best understood in this form of communication. Like, it's a very holistic approach to not only staffing, but also a human. If you're preparing people to be able to be in a position for a long time, you're making sure they're supported outside of where they're contracting. And that's a hard value prop to boil down to a few sentences in an
Yes,
email or in a
absolutely.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
message.
But then you talk to somebody for 30 minutes and they're like, oh, interesting.
Makes
That's
total
very
sense.
unique. They get it, It's just getting to that point. What we've found is that it's very relationship based heavily, because
Mhm.
most engineering leaders who are going to be in a position where they're scaling teams or companies, been doing this for a long time, already know people. They already have their avenues where they're used to going for talent, whether or not it's awesome or not. They know it works, right? And they know like, okay, I know this person, they know me, they're reliable. Maybe it's not going to be the best team ever, but I can make it work. It's a matter of like, how do we break through to those people, or people have experienced it and it's failed, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the easier conversation where they're like, yeah, this is not working. I need something new. If we can get in front of
Mm-hmm.
them at the right time. But that's
Yeah.
really been what's restricted us, because I
Mhm.
came from just a completely different sales background over into this company to help grow it and just to kind of fix the sales process. But I wasn't so well connected in the startup community. So it's all
Mhm.
net new. So trying
Yeah.
to figure out that, how do we get in front of more people, get the
And you have an
message out there?
interesting challenge too, where you have to reinform these folks that are hiring about the reality of their perceived pain point and how it is a little bit more than how they initially perceive it. And the better they're able to understand that piece, the more they're going to organically be able to tell that their traditional recruiting and staffing processes or partnerships are not enough. But that is a tough job. That's really impacts everything that you put out external facing, and the task, especially in an industry or a process that is so historic, like staffing has been at the table forever. And so really trying to disrupt something that's so mainstream, for lack of a better word, is no small feat. So, I mean, from what I've seen, it's only really companies that are doing good work and actually trying to make a difference that are not intimidated by that task, if that makes
Yeah,
sense,
exactly.
because
We
they're
believe in
motivated
it,
by some correct principles as opposed to just we need to hit this benchmark by the end of the month. You're
yeah,
like, we
exactly.
actually want to shift the culture about this a little bit. We want contractors to be a bit more protected. We want them to have a higher success rate. We want them to stay in jobs longer. We want them to get paid more. Like,
Which, by the way, benefits the client in every single way. Like,
totally.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, more
And I think
transparent.
that's the piece that maybe they don't understand is like, not only is this going to be better for the contractor, but that's directly relating to your success with this
Yep,
individual. You're not going to
exactly.
have these gaps in between contractors. You're not going to have to onboard a million different people. That's expensive and timely. Who would want to do that more than you
Yeah,
have to?
exactly.
And I didn't ask you this at the beginning, but how long have you guys been?
So it all started basically in 2020. That was like in the incubator mode.
Yeah.
So 5-ish years.
Yeah. And of the past 5 years, when was the time that you guys experienced the most growth? And did
It
that come
was
as a surprise to you, or was it based on activities that you did directly that you were like, "Yep, this is what we wanted to happen"?
We probably saw the most growth around the blockchain boom. I don't even know if people cared about what we did with the training. They're just like, wait, you can get a team of blockchain engineers? I'll take them. They
Yeah.
were hard to find because it was a new technology.
Mhm.
And so we were just able to source those people, and so much money was being thrown at it. They were like, we don't really care what it costs. We're just going to do it. So that was a big boom, but then it was a big bust, right? We got kind of overexposed. One of our biggest clients was NFTs, and that all but went away, but they raised $100 million, like,
Mhm.
you know, on this idea. For a while there, they were a great client and we built them an awesome team, but then it just didn't last. And now it's been more steady. Everyone got used to remote work and remote workers because COVID. Anyone who wasn't already used to it had to become used to it pretty quick during that phase. It's been more steady, and we've been a little bit weary of just like, we don't want to go all in on any new fads. We'll get in there, but we don't want to have all our customers be like a brand new AI startup.
Yeah.
We got bit by that already. We'll work
You
with
have a little
some, but
security
not
there.
all.
Yeah.
That was when I think we were billing close to $500,000 a month during that time. We're not there now, but we're going to organically get back there through getting the right clients.
Mhm.
That's the plan, and that's fine. That'll work.
And beyond industry, what is the right client to you? Like, how specific do you folks get when you conceptualize your ICP?
I mean, basically, we see mostly from seed to about B round startups. They need to have raised, if it's seed, it's a little early. They would need to raise a couple million just to be able to sustain a team for a year is what we're looking for.
Mhm.
That way there's at least some assurance and continuity. If we're going to put these resources and trainings into getting this team up and running, we don't want it to just be disbanded in 3 months because another round of funding didn't come through. So A round's probably like the sweet spot, raise 5 million or more in an A round. And then they have to designate some of that towards engineering resources. But we have a company that's in their D round and has raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they just needed more engineering firepower. They're usually a little more set in their ways by then. They have their processes all dialed in and their stand-ups, and they have a really good engineering leadership team there. But they love what we're all about too. So that's been
Mhm.
a good relationship. That works as well. And I think we could do it with just about anybody. Even we could probably do it with a huge company that wanted to build some additional like dream feature or product just completely siloed by itself. Just scale up, spin up a team to do it, a pod, and then they'll build this product for you. And then at some point you integrate it with your existing team. That could
Mhm.
totally use case, because maybe your existing team, you don't want to take their focus off of what they're doing on the daily, but you need this additional ability to flex and have more engineering firepower.
And you mentioned earlier that there is a piece where there is like a second tier offering where you provide this training for existing contractors at level. How much of what's in your funnel is that type of work? Or is it a
It's
very
pretty
small
small.
amount or
Yeah. It's more like that'll just come up as if we go through kind of a, sales conversation, sales cycle. I'll throw it out there usually, but we really just focus on the staffing aspects. That's our core business. But if I'm picking up on certain things where it's like, okay, they don't need any additional talent, but they're struggling in certain areas, then I can suggest one of the coaches that focuses on that specific, whatever it is that they're struggling on. If it's team communication, we could bring in our communications coach. If it's their engineering practice as a whole, then we'll bring in someone who specializes in that. That's a small subset of what we do. But it's a great foot in the door because we learn a
Yeah.
lot about the organization that way, strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes we even make recommendations of here's this one person that everything seems to fall back to that might be the issue. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can help in that way as well. If you want to replace them, we can help you there too. We're not trying to get people fired, but if someone's just a complete roadblocker and it's like, well, this is why you're experiencing all this pain,
At
and
least
then
you
they
can
can say, well,
inform.
they
Yeah.
said it. The Holonic said it. It's not us,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
blame
Gives
us.
them gives them a bit of neutrality.
Yeah,
Like, wasn't my idea.
exactly. Yeah, and sometimes you need someone else to tell you something that you're already noticing and thinking, and it
Yeah.
just
No,
confirms.
totally.
So
For them to validate that it's real. You're
yeah,
like, "Am I too
exactly.
involved in this, or is this actually happening?" And then a third party comes in and goes like, "No, you're right. That is the
Yep,
problem.
it's
There it
definitely
is. Get it
happening.
out of here."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
We've talked about your applicability to multiple different sizes of companies. I think that there's definitely use cases for other industries as well. And so I'm curious, with all that in mind, what expansion looks like for you guys. How does your expansion of Holonic come to you? How do you conceptualize that from where you are right now with the growth that you've been able to achieve so far?
Yeah, it's not anything crazy. We're not looking to add 100 clients in the next year or anything like that. We don't have the capacity to do anything like that. We just want to add a few of the right clients. That's really our goal. And we're a really small, lean team. We don't really have the capacity to take on too much, and that's not our goal. That would be more for the products that we're MVPing right now and working on and wireframing. Like that would be the one that could scale like crazy and have tens of thousands of users. But as far as Holonic right now, as it stands, we're just looking to add a few more. We haven't decided how we're going to go about that yet, right? Because we have struggled historically. It's all relationship based. I dig through my clients with their permission, right? I'll dig through their LinkedIn. I'll build out a list of everyone I find interesting to talk to. And then I share that with them. Hey, is anyone on here actually do you actually know them? And they'll reply to an email if I can come up with a reason. That's been the way I've been doing it lately. We've almost gone backwards in time, and it's heavily manual. I don't really enjoy it, but I do enjoy the outcome. It gets meetings. I get meetings with people who know someone or know one of my customers. They trust them. So they initially have at least that level of comfortability with me. And then I can get on a conversation with them and walk them through why we're different and see if there's a fit there. That's what I've been focused on lately, but there's a finite amount of connections and people that I can do that with. And it does take a ton of time to dig through all that and get everything ready. And again, it's been worth it because of the outcome. I'm getting meetings, but I would love to come up with some more automated way. And I know that's where some of your specialties come in. We're looking into all that right now and trying to figure out what's the best way to go to take that next jump.
Definitely. Yeah. I know earlier you said that you can't really speak to your product. It's all hush hush, but I'm going to completely ignore that and ask you this question anyway.
Go for it.
Is your product going to kind of house all of the activities that you're doing right now? Is that the goal? Is
Yes.
it going to be a hub portal situation where people are able to access the resources that they have for training, for coaching, for all those pieces? Is
Yeah,
that kind
it's
of
bringing together the companies, it's bringing together the talent, it's bringing together the coaches. So it's like a three-sided marketplace. Yeah, the goal is to make it easy, right? To find really good talent who's been vetted. There's multiple layers of it that we're working on. How do you validate that someone is really good? We still want to have a lot of human interaction. We're going to use a ton of AI to whittle things down, because if we have people that want to become applicants and become a talent pool, well, I can't have an English screening call with 50,000 people. But if we whittle that down to 500 or with 200 using AI, that's the plan. And then we'll have human interactions with someone, with me, with the coaches, whoever, depending on what it is that we're trying to solve for, just to validate. There's something you can take away when hopping on a call with somebody face to face like this for 15 or 30 minutes that that the AIs aren't going to pick up on.
Yeah.
We want to still make sure we have that screen element, and that's because that's a big part of what we do.
And I think specifically with the holistic approach to staffing that you have, it necessitates that human element. Without that, there would be a huge gap.
Exactly. Without that, we're just some other matching algo, right? There's plenty of those out there, but it's the ability to, okay, you came in and you're at like 98%, 98%, 75%. What is this 75%? How do we get you to 98? Because then you're going to start matching with these companies that you want to work for. But right now, here's the little tidbits that are missing. If you tool up here, here, and here, by the way, here's 3 coaches that could help you with that and the rates that they charge. And if you do it through the system, it's automatically, then you retest in a month, right? And you're just going to keep going up until you get to where you're at a point where you're more employable. I think there'll be a good opportunity for the talent to get better. It's a good opportunity for the coaching people to come in and to sell whatever services they sell. And then it's going to be a good opportunity for companies to come in and find people who are really good, and we'll still apply the pod training. If they want to bring on a team, we'll bring in the coaches, we'll train them up. Some of our competitors offer teams, but all it is they go out and they select 5 people, and then they're like, here's your 5 people, there's your team. I'm like, you didn't do anything. You just took 5 strangers and put them in a room together.
Yeah, anyone could do that. Yeah.
When we think of team, we think of like, we're going to build them into a team before they actually come and work for you.
Yeah.
And we don't want to lose that. It's going to tie it all together.
Definitely.
That's the goal. What we're working on right now is, okay, how do we tie it all together in a way that makes sense, a story that's easy to tell, but that's going to create value for each of those 3 streams. That's the goal.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it. It's there's a lot of functionality there. I can imagine it's going to be a big development piece. We're coming up to the end here, so I want to give you some space to tell folks not only where to find you, but also beyond the tool and the app, what is coming down the pipe that people can expect. Is there anything content-wise coming out? Tell the people where to find you, what's coming down the pipe, what they can see, what they can look for.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kyle Johnson at Holonic. You can check out our website, becomeholonic.com. And I'm going to be on more and more podcasts, maybe even start my own. I don't know. We'll see. Just trying to get our name out there more and just get the messaging across that there is a better way to do this. And if you want to know more about it, just ping me.
Heck yeah. I like that. There's a better way to do this. That'll be the title of this episode.
There we go.
Well, it was so great to have you, Kyle. Thank you so much for chatting with us, answering my questions, diving into all the cool stuff that you're doing over at Holonic. I think that, you are shaking up an industry that has needed a shaking for a while. Yeah. That's really awesome. And I'm very excited to see what happens next for you and Holonic. So thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Gabby. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. All right. You guys, I will see you later. Please subscribe, follow along, and catch us next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the CTRL ALT GAB podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.